Call this September the 8th, 2020 meeting of the Hyde County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and those of you on Facebook Live. Commissioners that are in attendance tonight is Commissioner Toppin, Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Pugh here on the Government Center, and we have Commissioner Paul joining us from home live streaming. And I'd like to welcome all of you here in the audience that are participating tonight. We have our County Manager, Chris Noble, our Attorney, Ron Holscher, and our IT person, Donnie Shoemaker with us. I'm going to ask Benjamin if he would, Commissioner Simmons, he'd lead us in our prayer.
If y'all will, please bow. Lord, we just come to you tonight and we just ask for guidance as we're making decisions for the county. Lord, let them be pleasing to you. Help us to just clear our minds and focus on what's right for the people of this county, and give us clear guidance and let everybody return home safely tonight. In Christ's name pray, amen.
Amen.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have before us an agenda, and I believe there's some changes to the agenda that need to be made.
Yes, sir. I would request that the board move appointments, tax assessor and collector to 6A, restructuring of the tax office. And that way we can talk about all of that business at one time and it won't be disjointed throughout the agenda. So we'll move that appointment as 6A. And then also, sir, we'd like to add number 8, Bigfoot Slough dredging. That was an omission. It was meant to be in your package and it was not. So that'll be number 8, Bigfoot Slough dredging. And I will present both of those items if the board will agree to that.
Okay, or any other additions or changes to the agenda? Not, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You have your minutes from the August the 6th meeting, which was, it was actually the August the 3rd meeting that was rescheduled till August the 6th. Those minutes are in your packet. And I believe there was one change in it, correct, Donnie?
Yes, sir. Under the name change position for the deputy EMS director, I did a copy and paste and did not edit it. So I made those changes before we submitted them, and I printed out the change and passed it to you.
Okay. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. No public hearing. All right. Chris?
Thank you, sir. We will move into our presentations, and our first presentation this evening will be Ms. Linda Bass Knight, and she'll be presenting the August 2020 tax collections report.
You have in your packet a copy of the tax report for August 2020. I apologize, but I don't think you have the August 2019 in there. We are dying considerably from what we collected in 2019, but that has to do with the timing of the mailing of the current year tax bills. As soon as we get them running in the mail, I expect we'll see a big difference in next month's report. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions for Linda?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Anybody? If not, do I hear a motion to accept the daily distribution report from the tax office?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Toppin. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Miss Linda, if you'll stay for the next topic on the agenda. The next thing on your agenda is our employee, volunteer, and friend of the county. And I think that most of you are aware that Miss Linda has recently retired. And she served Hyde County from August 1st of 1970 to September 1st of 2020. So she was with us full-time as our tax administrator and a million other things for the last 50 years and 1 month. So we want to honor you, Ms. Linda. We want to present you. Wow, beautiful. Yes. I'm sorry. And that will honor you, that has your dates of service, and we can't say enough, Ms. Linda, you've been the cornerstone of this courthouse for as long as many generations can remain. Miss Linda, well, we appreciate her, but we do hope that she'll be able to come back to us and work with us some in the future on a consultant basis. But this is her official retirement, so she can come and see us or not come and see us as she chooses.
Let's see what you got.
Let's do it.
Just,
Okay. Beautiful.
And we chose to put the old courthouse.
That's where I'm going. Started 3 days a week in the tax office, and 3 days of register deeds, and 2 days in the tax department.
We tried to get a picture of the really old one, but we couldn't find one with decent enough quality to print it out like a picture.
And I would assume that you, Jim, and Miss Goldie might want to give Miss Linda's.
I've appreciated all your help over the years, helping me get my figured out, and thank you for all your kindness and help, whether it be with drainage or property tax, and I'm just thankful for all your help. And I am glad to hear that you will potentially be available to help if somebody needs it.
I am right now volunteering to help Sue and Laura in any way I can through this transition.
Linda, I just, it's gonna be different around here, but I see you every day, I'm sure, but I'd like to thank you for all your years of service and congratulate you on retirement. I just hope you enjoy every
And I appreciate this board and all the boards prior for allowing me to preach this concept.
Well, thank you for your service.
Not everybody makes it 50 years.
No, I would
That's a
say not.
huge accomplishment. Ms. Gold?
Yeah, I'd like to appreciate all you have did all these many years.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that when I first got back, I knew Miss Linda all my life. When I first came back from East Carolina, I was a real estate agent in the county for a long time. And one of the first things I had to conquer was understanding how to do land records research. And that gave me a lot of time in the tax office and a lot of time in the deeds office. And I quickly figured out that Miss Linda knew everything about every, you knew the history of every parcel of land in this county, who owns it now and who has owned it for multiple generations, and who is kin to who and who deeded what to who and how it was that way and when it got split. And your knowledge is so impressive, and you have taught me so much, and I wouldn't be where I am without you. So I appreciate you so much.
Tom, do you have anything to say?
It's just your level of dedication to the county is really remarkable. And I can't figure out someone as young as you could have worked for 50 years for the county.
Haven't you ever?
You must have started awfully young. Thank you very much.
Tom, did you hear what Miss Linda said?
I did not.
Have you not ever heard that powder and paint can make a woman what she ain't?
Thank you very much for your service.
We are going to have another brief presentation underneath that section of employee, volunteer, and friend of Hyde County.
Sorry, guys. Figured we didn't want to hear that all meeting, so I need to replace this one.
How we gonna vote the bonds?
He's loud enough.
He's pretty loud. The second presentation is a carryover from last month, and we received the plaque of honor for Commissioner James Roger, little brother Toppin. And we didn't have this last month, but we have it this month. And we will hang this in the lobby of the courthouse with our other plaques of honor. And Miss Goldie has received one for her home to remember and to draw strength from. And we just want to again thank you as his family for his time he spent with us and now for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Our next presentation will be our Roseacre Farm Solar Project. I'd like to invite Mr. Paul Sproul. We're honored to have Paul here with us tonight. He is the CEO of Tideland ENC, and he's going to talk to you ladies and gentlemen in regard to a solar farm project located at Roseacre Farm in Currituck Township.
Thank you all for having me. A lot of friends in the room, and I don't want to take more of your time than you need me to. And I should probably turn the mic for Commissioner Paul's benefit. Okay. This way? Okay.
Sorry about
No. All good. All good.
COVID pushed us into remote meetings, and we're still perfecting our technology.
This is great. It's very impressive. So, yeah, I just as a quick summary, and I'll be happy to, I'm not in a hurry at all, but I don't want to take your time. So any questions you guys have after a quick summary, I'm happy to answer them. For about 2.5 years, Tideland has been working intimately with Roseacre on trying to help them really establish a footprint on a renewable energy project. So this is a combination of a 2 megawatt solar field that's charging a 2.5 megawatt Tesla battery, very similar to the much smaller 500 kW Tesla that's on Ocracoke. I'm going to guess, I'm going to be wrong, but not far off, that this would be maybe the 5th Tesla battery in the state of North Carolina, and Hyde County is going to have 2 of them. So everybody knows that to conquer the renewable puzzle, that we have to conquer energy storage to make it all work. So we're very excited about the project. Rose Acres very excited about it. We come to you all in hopes that we might win your support in the form of maybe we describe as an alternate land use, a land use that you're not accustomed to regulating, a land use that you're not accustomed to issuing a building permit for. We understand that we're going to owe you appropriate fees, et cetera, and looking forward to being your partner, as Tideland always is. So thank you all for having us.
And I'll preface the agenda item with saying, you know, our board has worked towards development of a solar ordinance. And with some of the things that have occurred over the last several years, especially Dorian, our attention went other ways. But we do have to revisit those discussions. And so in your package, I gave you the details of the project proposal from Tideland and their partners. Also, there's a letter in your package from me to Tideland acknowledging the receipt of their package and also explaining that as of right now, we do not have an active solar ordinance in place. However, we do have requirements. We have been working with Mr. Sproul and Mr. Everett, our building inspector, talking about how we will inspect this and coming up with a plan for inspections. And Paul has offered to help us and get some partners involved so we can build an inspections plan with some third-party certifications that will allow our building inspector to sign off on different levels of the project. And so what I would like to do is issue this letter and work with Mr. Sproul and our building inspector during the month of September to make sure we have A, an effective inspections plan, and B, an effective fee schedule so that we don't go in the hole, so to speak, in regard to this project, that we have adequate funds available to provide the level of inspection there that we need. And with that being said, the agenda item is basically, I'd like to be authorized to send him this letter blessing his project and saying we'll work forward with him to build that plan during this month. And then also for you to ask any questions of him, and then to ask the board to let's go ahead and talk about starting a work group session very soon where we can start going through the draft ordinance so we have a formal solar facilities ordinance in place that you board members all feel comfortable with moving forward. And so I think that it would be appropriate at this time, if any of you have any questions, which I'm sure you do, to begin that conversation with Mr. Sproul while we have him here. And we do thank you for coming.
Oh, happy to do it anytime.
Is this to generate energy for Rose Acres themselves?
That's a good question, and it's a tough one. So this is really designed as a distribution project that's going to be injecting into the Ponzer circuit out of Ponzer substation. So it'll ultimately, the electrons that are manufactured by the project are going to find their way into the grid. I can tell you that on most days of the year, the energy that's riding the grid between Ponzer substation and Rose Acre Farms, most days it's consumed by the farm or by the homes that are along that stretch. There's some days that it's simply injected into the grid and consumed in other places.
What is the footprint as far as acres? How big a footprint is this?
So the lease premises is 30 acres, which but I very quickly want to follow that up by saying that the fence line is approximately 16 acres. So lease premises is much larger than the interior of the fence that will protect the facility.
But the actual footprint of this is about 30 acres, is that what you're saying?
The mechanicals of what
Yeah,
you'll see
mechanical.
is 16 acres or fewer,
Okay,
but the lease premises is 30 acres.
I got you, all right.
Yeah.
Paul, can you explain to us the relationship between Solar 5 and Tideland EMC?
Yes, sir. Good question. So in order for a not-for-profit to make itself eligible to take advantage of tax credits on renewable energy projects, you have to find a partner that actually pays taxes, that owes taxes. So North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation, which represents the 26 local electric cooperatives in North Carolina, they are the facilitator of these projects on our behalf. They create wholly owned subsidiaries for each project separately. And then once they've achieved that, they go and look for a corporate partner that will then become an equity connection to the project so that we can draw down the tax credits just as a private developer would. So what you're reading there is the formal name of the LLC that is a wholly owned subsidiary of North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation, of which Tideland is one of 26 members.
Are those federal or state tax credits or both?
They are leaning more heavily to federal these days, but they can be both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you give us some sense of how big a generating capacity 2 megawatts is, just for
Well,
those who may not be able to convert
yes,
2
sir, I
megawatts?
think I can. You and I have the very intimate one-on-one experience of understanding what your 3 megawatt diesel on the island is capable of. And it generally can carry the island on like a mild March day. We would be running at about 2.5, 2.8 megawatts, just a shade under that 3 megawatts that the diesel's capable of. So maybe if you think of the island's load on a mild March or April day, that would give you a good reference.
Good, thank you.
So with the battery storage that you're talking about, with the power that's going to be generated, would that be a constant 24-hour-a-day supply?
No, sir. Good question. Well, I should correct that. The 2 megawatt solar field is charging the 2.5 megawatt per hour for 2 hours battery. The battery is capable of discharging 2.5 megawatts per hour for 2 hours. That's its limit. Okay. The 2 megawatt solar field charges the battery, and that's what makes the project eligible for tax credits because it's being charged with solar energy. So the maximum of what the project can produce is in a given hour, the battery can discharge 2.5 megawatts while the solar field is producing 2 megawatts. So 4.5 would be the maximum that the project could produce, but that would be limited only to 1 or 2 hours of a really sunny day. Okay. So the straight answer to your question about the 24/7 clock is that the battery, once it's fully charged, it is standby available to be discharged in any 2 hour period within that 24-hour clock. The battery is capable, light, dark, wind, rain, the battery is capable of discharging any time that it's called upon. Having said that, it's being charged by a solar field. So the solar field does need the sun to shine for the battery to benefit from a full charge.
So if, let's say you take this battery and you charge it fully on a good sunny day, how long could you meter out, or how much power could you generate over a 24-hour period? Not all at one time, but could you take it out gradually, or does it have to go at one time?
You wouldn't do that on a 24-hour clock. You can throttle back the battery to make that 2 hour discharge last much longer. But it's a bit out of my league to speculate on how long that could be, but it would, my guess is it'd be nowhere near 24 hours. So the battery's purpose is really to serve as that standby storage mechanism that is called upon in a very intense high demand moment that exists maybe on Ponzer Circuit out of Ponzer Substation, but that high demand moment might also exist in the state of Virginia. You know, it might be that a weather cycle or some sort of pressure on the grid is calling upon resources within a multi-state region, and that battery has value because it can be discharged at a very precise moment in time, and you're going to know that it occurred, and you're going to know what that value was. So that's really the purpose of the battery, as opposed to stretching out an energy supply over a 24-hour period.
Is Tideland or the electric membership cooperatives, are they currently investing in new coal-fired power plants or nuclear power plants to make sure that we got the energy needs for the future? I know that these are all great, make you feel good projects, but as in California right now, I suspect if it was 121, I wouldn't want you to have me under a rolling blackout. So I think my reality of thinking of my children in the future, are you building power plants that work around the clock that are going to provide electricity for my children in years to come as America's population is going to continue to grow, and I mean, and energy consumption is going to continue to increase?
It's an excellent question. You're right to ask it. Your California analogy is not an exaggeration. That's happening this past month. North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation's portfolio is really dominated by nuclear and natural gas, much less coal. We've got a zero emissions goal that we hope to achieve by 2050, but nuclear will be a very large part of that. And you're right, our 24/7 baseload resources, we're going to make sure that we've got enough capacity to take us through not just what we need today, but what we need over the next 30 years. The only correction I'd make to your question, it's not a correction, it's just information, is that we're very much nuclear, natural gas, and renewable heavy, and we're getting lighter and lighter with coal as the years go by.
You can burn coal for me and keep my life.
Kind of you. That's kind of you.
I'll skip the coal if it's okay with you.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Thank y'all for the questions. These are excellent questions.
Paul, I noticed that your proposal matches up pretty well with our draft solar farm ordinance. I assume that's not a coincidence?
No, sir. Thank you for that question. We understood, because we all live in the community together, correct? So we understood the pressures that hit local government on the chin when the Terracea solar project unfolded in Beaufort County. It was quite a controversial project, and ultimately Beaufort County had to wrestle with that as a regulator. So we understood that, and while this is a very small project relative to, hundreds of acres of solar panels, we wanted to be respectful of Hyde County as a regulator, and we wanted to acknowledge your efforts on the solar work that you had done 2 to 3 years ago, and we wanted to try our very best to align an application with the way that you might regulate not our project, but future projects going forward. So our goal was to, try to be a good partner and not pull any fast ones.
I certainly look at this as a really great opportunity for us to work with you and take this opportunity to develop the language of that ordinance and to, work out all the bugs and make that ordinance the best that it can be for Hyde County. And I just can't think of a better opportunity than to do the tweaking of that language simultaneous to working with you in the development of this project. So I think it's great. I really support what you're doing. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that this is a small scale project, but big enough to qualify under our ordinance as a solar farm. So it's a really perfect opportunity to work out the language and to work out the details of an ordinance. So thank you, and I really support what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. We're happy to help you any way we can. We appreciate it.
I'd like to reiterate that comment, Tom, especially I think you're spot on. This is a great project with a great partner for us to get our feet wet and learn more and start to set our development ordinance. And on the other side, I'm also so happy that it's Thailand, because it'll also help our inspector who has not had experience on a solar project yet to gain that experience with a good partner. So as he moves forward, he can work with other companies that come in other situations. So it's a great opportunity to train and give fresh new experiences to our inspector.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to working with all of y'all.
Do you have any questions for Paul moving forward? Any more questions or any more comments?
I think it is a good opportunity on a small scale to develop an ordinance that we can live with in the future, because if one of these major big operations came in here and wanted to put in thousands of acres of them, we would be very much at a loss at this time. I think that we need an ordinance to protect the ones that build it. We need to protect our county, and also, so I think it's a good time to develop an ordinance to move forward with.
And this agenda item is really twofold. You've got two things going in this agenda item. You've got this particular project and making sure that you all feel comfortable moving forward and being aware of how we're working with Thailand on this particular project, and then to talk to you all about developing the ordinance. And which I hope and think that Thailand will also work with us pretty closely and be an expert for us as we develop our ordinance. So in your package, you have that draft solar energy facility ordinance. And what I would like to propose is that we could potentially have a workshop in the month of September with the board open meeting where we could take some time to go through this ordinance and talk about what's important to us as a board, and start changing, amending, modifying the language so that we can move towards this. And I don't think that's something we can do in a regular BOC open session. I think we need to have a special workshop potentially to work through these. And I would assume that I wouldn't want to do it with just one or two of y'all. I would assume that everybody would want a chance to have input on it. So I'd like to work with you all tomorrow on the telephone one-on-one to potentially set a date somewhere between September the 16th and September the 25th, where we could come in here for a couple of hours and go through it comprehensively and begin modifying the draft that you have in your book. How do you all feel about that plan moving forward?
I love the idea of having a workshop. Personally, the project with it, Rose Acres involvement, I assume it's going on Rose Acres land.
Yes, sir.
So they're going to be utilizing the power. I love that idea if they want to go along with that. But as far as mass solar panels everywhere, I don't know that I feel comfortable with that at this time. So having a workshop to draw an ordinance that I think makes sense and not just be getting tax credits where we're going to be left with a mess to clean up in 20 years is important. So, I mean, this project I view a lot different than what went on in Terracea. That's my opinion. And so having a workshop, I think, is a great idea. But as far as your project going on their property, I'm fine with that. If Earl wants to put some solar panels up there to run his shop, I'm good with it. But I don't know how good I am with somebody rolling into town and messing up a lot of people's livelihoods and gonna come in for a quick hit and gone and never see them again. And 20 years later, you're working with a bankrupt LLC to clean up a hazardous waste site. Also, everybody can believe, and I think I've discussed this with this board before, I met with a third world country, with the leaders of a third world country working with agriculture, and they said no country is free that is not energy independent. Well, I was thinking electricity and oil, and they said no, human energy independence. So as we continue to take out valuable farmland and we continue to have larger and larger populations, we better start thinking about the reality that some of these third world countries are facing that can't feed their people because they have totally just axed agriculture. And so we want solar panels, and it sounds fun and it's cool, but when you're young and starving to death because you don't have food, that's something else. So that's a whole nother story, but it's a reality within 700 miles of here. So anyway, actually 741 miles from there.
The other board members, how would you feel about moving forward and having a workshop? Would the other three of y'all want to speak up in regard to A, Paul's project, and B, having a workshop in the end of September that we could sit down and really go through the language in the ordinance?
Sure, I would like that opportunity.
Sure. I think I would too. I think it would be good.
Ms. Goldie?
Yeah, but you said 16.
No, anytime. I would not like to set a date tonight. What I'd like to do is work with y'all on the telephone tomorrow to find a day somewhere between the 16th and the 25th. And that way we'll have something to report in the October meeting. And I hope we could, and I can call you all individually tomorrow and talk to you a little bit about your schedule, and we'll find it. And then Donnie will make sure it's properly posted and advertised. And we'll take about a couple of hour block one day and just sit down and really go through this language as a board towards the end of September. If that is the consensus of the commissioners, I'd like to, A, go ahead and work with Paul and our building inspections department and state officials to start to put stuff in place for his project. And then I'd like to pull you all together in the second half of September to let's start going through our ordinance.
I agree with that.
Commissioner Paul?
Yeah, that all sounds really, really good. And I would just like to carry the conversation forward here for just one more minute. And that is to say that there's a lot of propaganda out there that's trying to crush the solar industry in favor of fossil fuels. And it's pure politics. It's not anything that has anything to do with public health and safety. Even our ordinance in its draft form has the requirement that the applicant would put forward a bond equal to 125% of the cost of decommissioning. So no matter what, LLC goes bankrupt or whatever else happens, and a solar farm fails, and the responsibility, this is a scenario that you wouldn't expect to happen, but it could, and that's why bonding would be a part of this. But if the county ended up being responsible to oversee that decommissioning, there would be a bond there for 125% of the cost of decommissioning. So none of this is as scary as it's made to sound in all the propaganda. And I'm sure we can have more of that conversation.
That is exactly why I thought it would be appropriate if we worked on this in a workshop atmosphere so we'd have adequate time to work through that issue, sir.
Agreed.
And I look forward to working through that with each one of you. And so I'll be on the phone with you all tomorrow. We'll set a date and we'll have a workshop and we'll find something that we can all live with.
And I'd love to also have a workshop when we can maybe get some natural gas generators or something here. So when the sun don't shine, we can cut the lights on.
Be ready to roll.
I'm still for that.
I understand.
My solar lights don't work when the sun don't shine.
That's
So
it.
I'm all for burning gas and
I understand where you're coming from.
I like
And,
being able to cut that switch on and off and it works, whether the sun's shining today or not.
just so we make good for you, if that window of time aligns, Chris and I will text each other and, I'd be happy to be here if that window lines up nicely.
And
We
just
would
for,
appreciate
just for,
that.
Yeah.
just for propaganda, to make sure that I'm correct. If the sun doesn't shine and you say no bright sunshiny days is when the solar panels work great, right?
Well, they're gonna always work in daylight, but yeah, they're gonna max out when the
Okay.
sun's really shining.
But would it be appropriate to assume that like a generator works if you got gas?
But yeah, I can't argue with you on
Okay,
that.
I just want to make sure that wasn't propaganda. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't
I
confused.
believe the sun is shining somewhere right now.
Yeah, and right. And, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I want to correct one, I misspoke, just Hyde County geography. Our Ponzer substation has coming out of it the Rose Acre Circuit and the Rose Bay Circuit. And I think I might have confused the circuit names, but we're talking about the Rose Acre Circuit that's leaving Ponzer substation and traveling north towards the campus up there. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Paul. Look forward to working with you, and thank you so much.
Yep, thank y'all.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. And next, we're going to ask our emergency manager, Mr. Joey Williams. He's going to give us a emergency management update. And I thank God that we've had no action in the last couple of weeks since Hurricane I, and I'm glad that he's had some time to get his bearings. So,
If you don't mind while I'm talking.
sure.
Sign that, please. So the reason for this public officials conference is every year between October the 1st and September the 30th, I have several activities that I have to complete for an emergency management performance grant. And this happens to be one of the options that I picked for this year. And it just helps to offset some of the cost of the emergency management department. The first thing I'll talk about is emergency management's role in disaster. I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows what goes on after we have a disaster and during. But to break it down, just before, we all have control group meetings and meet with the commissioners and decide what steps to take, and then the commissioners act on the decisions that are made. During a disaster, during that pre-disaster, I give my interpretation of what the weather forecast and what kind of impacts we could possibly receive. During it, in the EOC, I actually order resources. I'll pre-stage commodities. Like in Dorian, they needed swift water rescue teams, and we order that kind of stuff through our web EOC in conjunction with North Carolina State Emergency Management. After the disaster, we work with BOADs, or volunteer groups that aid in disaster, to kind of help with the recovery, deal with donation management, finding people places to stay. We work with Baptist men, Methodist men, Samaritan's Purse, the Red Cross, for sheltering and rebuilding of houses and stuff. And like in Dorian, that process is still ongoing. We use grants from the state, OSBM and their CDBG grants and stuff to mitigate and repair houses, and emergency management is involved in all of that. Our travel trailers that we had after Dorian, there's 20 of them still in use. That was funded through an OSBM grant, and the housing allowance and all that stuff is funded through OSBM. And it's my job to provide logistics for moving those on and off the island. Like before Isaias, we moved 27 in 2 days, and then we moved 20 back in 3 days. So I'm responsible for the logistics of making sure that they're safe. Resources is the next thing I'll talk about. So when I request resources, what I do is I enter a request in Web EOC, and then RCC East, which is out of Kinston, is the eastern branch of the emergency management. They broker between myself and, say, if I need a swiftwater rescue team out of Greensboro, that's Task Force 6, or a search and rescue team out of Greensboro, Task Force 6. They broker between those entities and us, and we have our resources. I coordinate local resources, such as wildlife, marine patrol. Just for Isaias, I requested that all wildlife officers that were assigned to Hyde County stay in Hyde County. I requested all marine patrol officers stay in Hyde County. We requested that highway patrol will be set to the Swan Quarter Ferry Terminal, the Cedar Island Ferry Terminal, and the Hatteras Ferry Terminal to help enforce the visitor restriction on Ocracoke. All that happens through Web EOC and us requesting that. Also in Web EOC, as we're requesting resources, I also have to enter any state of emergency, evacuation order. I have to do situation reports. Anything that has to do with the storm, it has to be entered in Web EOC so that it coordinates what's going on here with what the state is seeing. Next thing I'll talk about is weather outlook. Everybody knows it's an extremely active tropical season. I feel pretty certain we're going to make it into the Greek alphabet. There's only 4 names left after Renee. I don't see it slowing down any until, after the peak. The statistical peak for the Atlantic Basin is September the 10th. So that's 2 days from now, the statistical peak of the tropical season. So hopefully, with this weakness in the high in the Atlantic, these 2 storms that are out there now will turn out. I don't expect much from the area of showers just southeast of Bermuda. It could turn into a depression, but we'll get rain and maybe a little bit of wind. But it will be an active season probably until the end of October. Next thing, established partnerships and what they bring to the table. Our established partnerships are with NCEM, law enforcement, fire departments, DOT, forestry, and local businesses. Law enforcement, during Dorian, the sheriff activated some of his mutual aid agreements with the North Carolina Sheriff's Association to get extra deputies to help on Ocracoke. I know Beaufort County sent some, Edgecombe County. They also did the Marine Patrol. I was actually with Marine Patrol then, and we were in Ocracoke the day after, and I stayed for I think 4 days, and the Marine Patrol had a presence until probably like the 19th of September. Wildlife, the same thing. Highway Patrol did their ferry terminal patrols. Fire departments were the same way. Ocracoke needed assistance. I know Bunyan sent some people to stand for calls while the people of the fire department of Ocracoke rebuilt their houses and took care of stuff that they needed to do. Dare County also. The DOT, we have an agreement with DOT that we take care of all county roads. We have a pre-positioned debris contract, but not only hurricanes but for like winter storms, we work closely with DOT to make sure that our roads are safe. The forestry, we generally try to keep our local forestry in the county to help with cut and toss operations on the mainland after hurricanes, to cut trees off the road and move that kind of debris off. Our local businesses support us very well for feeding and housing, like IMT team members. This year we used the the Tunnel Farmhouse and Magnolia Inn for our, to house those people, and Chris's Grocery and several other places provided food. It's our responsibility to feed and house people that come in. Preparation and training. I've been reviewing NIMS training for county employees. It's something that kind of fell by the wayside, but I'm gonna make sure that it is getting done. People that need to have just the initial stuff is ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800. Then people that work in the OC need to have 300 and 400. I'll make sure that those people have that opportunity to get that training. There's also been a lot of people that have shown interest in position-specific training, such as operations section chief, logistics section chief, planning section chief, resource unit leader. Those are all credentialed by North Carolina EM. And eventually, what I would really like was be to have my own IMT team. That way I could handle it all in-house. I mean, not saying that I wouldn't still request help, but it's just nice to be able to pull that kind of team from local people that know the area. Lots of the people that come down for ESAES were very familiar with Hyde County because they've been here several times. But it would be nice to have my own team that I could use. Recent disasters and long-term effects. Luckily, we hadn't hardly anything happen with ESAES. Dorian is still in everybody's minds. 2 days ago was the 1-year anniversary. So the long-term effects recovery still is ongoing on Ocracoke, and hopefully with these grants and house raising, and I think that Ordinance is getting ready to, Ordinance and the county are getting ready to pick several houses to redo. Hopefully Ocracoke comes back stronger, and I think they're doing really well. And Ordinance on Ocracoke is really a blessing for Ocracoke to be able to work the way Ivy and his team have. They're amazing people. Just to get the.
Could you speak out what Ordinance is, people?
Ordinance is the Ocracoke Interfaith.
It's the long-term recovery
Yeah.
group. I can't remember the acronym letters, but it's Ocracoke's long-term recovery group. So it's to work through Pastor Ivy Belch and other members that are providing case management and assistance to individuals and managing recovery of those individuals.
And Ivy helped a lot with donation management and all the logistics involved with that during Dorian.
And continues to
Yes.
every day.
Him and his team are amazing. But that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any kind of questions about emergency management? Anything you don't understand? Anything I can explain a little bit better?
I think you're doing good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
You're doing real good keeping these schools together. Sounds like you do have your organization in order. And
Yes, sir. We're moving. Joey's been working continually to organize, and I felt like our Hurricane I'm not going to murder it because I'm having a tough time pronouncing it. But I feel like we did really well as a new team together during Hurricane I, and we learned a lot, and I have a lot of faith in this team that we're building, and I think we're going in the right direction.
good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on our list of presentations, tonight's presentation heavy, and I appreciate everybody's patience and all our presenters' good information. We're going to have Ms. Luana Gibbs, and she's going to give us a COVID-19 update. Donnie, do you have that? Wonderful, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
We do. We hear you.
Okay, very good. I want just by giving you numbers tonight. As of 3 o'clock this afternoon, total cases for Hyde County were 113. Of those 113, 75 cases have recovered. We are actively dealing with 35 cases, and unfortunately, we have had 3 deaths in our county. It's important to know with deaths that a lot of times there are comorbidities that are associated with that. But if the provider who the medical examiner makes a determination that COVID was related with that death, that's going to be listed on the certificate, and that's going to be the cause. We do not report those deaths immediately because we wait for the death certificate to come to us. So I issued a press release that the health department was truly sorry for that loss of the people who have passed as related to COVID, and I just wanted to say that again in case anybody on Facebook Live is paying attention. Now to give you an update of what's going on within the health department related to COVID. My communicable disease nurse resigned, and today is her last day. So I am actively recruiting a registered nurse who can come in and spearhead COVID with us. My nursing supervisor, Melissa Sadler, has been doing a wonderful job. She and the CD nurse that we had, which was Amber McCann. And I have to say that all of my staff have worked really hard too. The process that we developed in the COVID situation is every single employee has had an opportunity and actually has, let me back up. Every employee has done a case investigation, and we didn't necessarily do this as a learning tool. We did this because we were forced to. There's enough work that goes into dealing with a case investigation and then determining the contacts that it's taken every one of us. I got my fair turn on one as well. I probably didn't do as good of a job as the rest of the crowd did, but I got my sleeves rolled up and worked in there with them. Because we're having such an incline in cases and the situation, I'm getting ready to contract with Carolina Community Tracing Collaborative. We call them CCTC, who will handle our contact tracing after we do the case investigation. We need the relief, and especially now with losing our communicable disease nurse. So there will be people within a region who will be handling that function for us. We're receiving, I'm sorry? Okay, I thought I heard something. I'm sorry about that. In some of the money that we are receiving through the CARES Relief Act, we are having to provide particular service deliverables. And one of those service deliverables is providing testing capacity for up to 5% of our population every month. It doesn't mean we have to provide the test. We just have to be capable of doing so. And they counted their population at 5,198 individuals, which breaks it down to 260 tests on a monthly basis. I can tell you that in August we had 2 drive-up testing events, and with those 2 testing events, along with what Ocracoke Health Center, Englehart Medical Center, and the health department did, we tested 467 individuals in the month of August. So there's a lot of hard work going on around this situation. The next thing of importance that you may be interested in is vaccines. I think there's the hope that there will be some vaccine available the first part of December. I can tell you that right now, there are over 125 vaccines that are being developed. Over 25 are in clinical trials that are being run, and 2 COVID vaccines have been approved in Russia and China. However, nothing has been approved for use in the U.S. Let's see, but that is anticipated that will happen. The supply chain, of course, the supply is going to be very limited this fall, and the initial populations who will likely get vaccinated will be the critical workforce. Let me see. What else do you need to know? Target groups will likely happen over time to help us. And I think that's probably all for vaccine. I've got specific information about cold chain and that type of stuff, and I don't think you all are going to want to know about that. So anyway, it's a very, very busy time for us. We get complaints a great deal. There's a lot of discord among people. There's the group that wants the mask and the group that doesn't want the mask, and it's just not been a very enjoyable time. I feel like the health department has completely risen to the occasion, and we've done the best that we've known to do to try to protect the public. But you just can't. It's impossible to make everybody happy, and we all know that. And what we're trying to do is just what is the right thing. We take our guidance from CDC and DHHS, and we pray for the best. I don't want everything to sound doom and gloom, because we have developed some wonderful partnerships. We actually have a very good working relationship with the school system. And, so good things have come from this. And we do get a lot of support from other agencies. And I really think that that's about all that I have to give to you all tonight, other than we're still providing the brochures to Ocracoke Island, and the last batch that we had were actually professionally done from a company that we've used before in some of our printing, and they look really, really nice. So that's about it for my report on COVID. If you all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions?
I don't have a question, Luana, but I'd like to commend the health department on the job they are doing, keeping everybody informed. And I know it's impossible to make everybody happy, but I think you're all doing a tremendous job.
Thank you very much for that.
And I'd second that. I do have a couple of questions, though, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Is the Ocracoke, is that number still at 4?
It is still at 4. Yes.
Okay. And for the county as a whole at 113 cases, how does that compare to other counties in North Carolina as far as percent of population?
Let me see. I've got that. I have that pulled up here on my computer. Our rate's pretty high, actually. Dear me, dear me. I looked. I can.
Yeah,
I
don't mean to put you on the spot, Luana. Just to hear you say our rate is pretty high is what I guess that's probably the case. Do you have any thoughts as to why the rate on the mainland is so high and why it's so apparently low on the island? I'm just wondering what we can learn from that. because I expected it to be the other way. With all the visitors coming to the island, we were, of course, very fearful when we opened up to visitors that we would have just a sudden influx of COVID. And I expected it to be the other way around. You know, obviously I'm no expert. It just is surprising to me, and I'm wondering if you have any theories or any thoughts on what we may have learned from that up to this point, and what we could learn going, you know, how we could take that going forward.
You know, Mr. Paul, I kind of thought it was going to be like that too. I looked for Ocracoke to, you know, get a couple of cases and then and just explode.
But we were
I don't really know why that is different, unless people who are coming to the island, they get back home and then they get sick. I don't know, maybe the folks over there are doing a really good job of the 3 W's, you know, the wear, wait, and wash. I don't know. I can say that a lot of what's happened here on the mainland, there are that we've had like outbreaks, which is, you know, where you have 2 or 3 folks in one whole, like in a facility. And all it takes is for, you know, you to get 1 or 2 that have it, and then it can go rampant within an area. So I think a lot of times what's happened on the mainland too is, you know, it's within families. So, you know, you get one person who's sick in a family, and then you wind up with 5 or 6 sick within that family. So it's been kind of like, you know, those type situations. And I guess, I don't know, Ocracoke's just been very blessed. And, you know, I guess they really deserve that after Dorian, right? You know, we can be happy for Ocracoke on COVID so far, but not let our guard down.
No, and I hope we don't. I'm fearful that it has to do with how much of the activity that goes on in Ocracoke is outdoor activity, and that seems to be a factor from what I'm reading about it, and that once the weather turns cold and we move more of our activities indoors, that we're going to find ourselves more vulnerable and looking maybe more like the mainland. But I just don't know, and it's just a very notable difference between the island and the mainland, and I've just wondered if you had any thoughts about that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any further questions for Ms. Luana? Thank you for joining us tonight. Next section of our agenda is public comment.
Donnie, did you have any public comments?
Yes, we had one public comment come over web submission, and we had one on the voicemail, which I'll play after I read this one. This was not in your packets. I did give you the sheet when I came over, and I emailed it to you, Tom, but I'll read it for the audience. It's from Mike Knowles of Ocracoke, and it's 2 comments. One is, I realize that this topic has been repeatedly discussed, but I would once again like to propose that all tax-paying property owners in Ocracoke be given the opportunity to receive priority passes for the Hatteras to Ocracoke ferry system. If that is not doable, I would even support or suggest that property owners like me that purchase the annual Swan Quarter to Ocracoke commuter pass have the Hatteras to Ocracoke priority pass be included in that purchase price. Second comment is, if the NCDOT is having financial difficulty, why not consider a minimal fee for the use of the Hatteras to Ocracoke ferry for everyone? Thank you for the opportunity to present my comments. And we have one on voicemail, which I will play right now.
evening, Commissioners. This is Brenda Peacock, a permanent resident of Washington Park in Beaufort County, where my husband is the city commissioner. But also, we're non-resident property owners on Ocracoke at 68 Jackson Circle. So I'm calling on behalf of non-resident property owners for public comment once again, but also asking that you do acknowledge the recent one-year anniversary of Hurricane Dorian, what it did to residents and non-resident property owners on the island then, and how far they've come in the past year. None of it would have happened without the help and support of many organizations and individuals, including non-resident property owners who volunteered, donated time and money, and continue to support island businesses and nonprofits. Non-resident property owners represent a large portion of Hyde County property taxes, potentially 50% or more of the residential property on Ocracoke. Therefore, again, I'm asking that you allow this group a voice in decisions made on the island that have significant impact to them. Representation on the control group hopefully will be part of your planned revisions to the control group that have been mentioned as far as being addressed in the near future. Just because the situation has been a certain way for some time doesn't mean it's the best or right way now, or that it can't be changed. And this would apply to the control group as well as some type of priority path for non-resident property owners for the Hatteras Ferry. Changing someone's, quote, permanent address is really the, quote, gaming that Commissioner Paul has mentioned in the past and really shouldn't be necessary for tax-paying homeowners. If the commissioners would simply support some type of priority pass for the non-resident property owners with the DOT, especially if there were some limited fee, I'm sure that the DOT would likely take some action, and it would require minimal effort to create passes and a system to obtain one if it was desired. So I respectfully request.
It cut off right at the end there, but she was closing up, so that's all we have.
Okay. Items to consider.
Next item on our agenda under items of consideration, I'd like to ask our grant administrator, Ms. Stephanie Watson, to come up and to present the project budget ordinance for the urgent repair grant. You remember last month, Stephanie came to us and she talked to us about the urgent repair grant. We approved several policies. And she's going to give you an update in regard to what she's been doing and ask for you to consider the approval of this project budget ordinance.
Okay, we've started taking applications for the urgent repair program 2020. We've actually got a really good, the community is receiving it well. We've got right many applications and there's more coming in. And that, I'm just asking you guys to approve the ordinance so we can help folks.
So as you all know, when we have a new project or new project monies come in after the approval of our budget, we adopt those monies into our budget with a project budget ordinance. So this particular project budget ordinance gives the entire budget and how those monies will be spent and where those monies came from. So when you look at the PBO, you'll see that we received a grant for $97,500 from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. The local match for that grant is $2,500. That local match is already in your budget. And so we're just asking for you all to adopt this project budget ordinance. So when we start receiving monies, we can put them into our budget.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the project budget ordinance for urgent repair grant for $100,000? Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. Any further discussion? No, all those in favor, let me know and say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Watson?
The response is very good for the.
Yes, it's been great.
Yeah, good.
It really has.
It has, and I'll tell you, this particular grant is meant for very low income folks. So low, in fact, that many of us can't really even fathom living on that level of money. But when Stephanie does speak to folks that are obviously don't fit that category, she's also working with them at the same time to make them knowledgeable of other sources of assistance and to get their information. So as other funding notices come across our table, we can reach out to them and try to match folks up that need assistance with available money that's available to them. And they qualify for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
A win-win.
That's a much needed grant, been needed for a while.
Yes, sir. Hopefully it'll be a yearly thing. Thank you, Stephanie. Next item on your agenda, of course, we moved the appointments into below section. Is the Teachers Whole revised EMS lease agreement. And that may be a little bit confusing because we approved the Teachers Whole EMS lease last month. But after approval, but before execution, the owners requested that we put a 90-day termination clause, that if they were able to potentially utilize the property for other purposes, they could give us a 90-day notice. And we agreed to that. Well, we worked with the owners and County Attorney Holscher to revise the lease to effect, put in a 90-day right of termination. So I'm asking you all to approve this new lease.
I'll make that as a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Next is the Beaufort County Community College Davis Center lease renewal. As you know, Beaufort County Community College has offices in our Davis Center in Englehard. Their lease has expired, and this will be a renewal of their lease. And this lease has been prepared and approved by our attorney as well.
And this is the same lease we've had in the previous leases. Just updating it to them. Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the lease with Beaufort County Community College, the Davis Center building?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Next item on your agenda is in regard to restructuring of the tax office. Earlier tonight,
You skip. BHM.
oh, did we skip that? Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. It was
We got time.
confusing.
We don't have to get into it.
I just got so excited. I'm just jumping through this thing. The next item is the Beaufort Hyde Martin Library lease renewal for the Davis Center. And I accidentally skipped over it because it's almost identical to the BCC lease. The library also is in the same building, and it's time to renew their lease. And I'm asking you to renew their lease, and this has also been reviewed by County Attorney Holscher.
And that's the same existing lease, correct? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the lease with BHM Regional Library?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion?
Not on this topic, but I want to ask a question when we vote on, after we vote on it.
All right. All right, if there's no discussion, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
I was just going to ask, how's it going on the repair stuff? Is any of that?
Sure, I can give you an update on that. In regard, so it is to differentiate the two buildings. Those of you that are know the Davis grounds where the Davis School was, I call the front building Davis Center. We've always called it the Davis Center, and that's the front building, and that has the library and the community college in there. We had a couple of businesses in there, and that building's in great shape. The back building I refer to as the Davis Ventures building because that back building is controlled by the Davis Ventures Group. And they are in the process of receiving repair. If you'll remember, we received CDBG disaster recovery funding after Matthew to repair the roof over their kitchen. And before we could move forward with that, they received damage to their gym roof in Hurricane Florence. Then those are two different pots of money. So the CDBG money to fix the kitchen roof is coming from the state. It's FEMA that is providing the money to repair the gym roof. And so we've made some really good progress navigating how to melt that state funding with that federal funding to get the ball rolling. And it has seemed like pulling teeth to make that happen, but we've made some really good progress, and we're just waiting on a couple of releases from FEMA. We've got what we need. We've got what we need from FEMA, and now we're waiting on just one more release from the state to release the DR money so it can be one combined project. Because of course, you know, we'll get more done combining it as one project and going in there. So long story short, we're hoping to be able to release a request for proposals for engineering services in the month of September. Daniel has worked with the state and FEMA to prepare the request for proposals, and he is waiting now for that release from the state to issue it, and then we'll hire an engineer. And after we hire the engineer, they'll be able to go forward and do the construction drawings, and we think it could be a relatively smooth process. So
But nothing, right now, it's out of the flood zone, so
It
that
is.
allows us to have state money.
yes, it is. It's out of the flood zone, and we have just about we've jumped through all our hurdles with FEMA, and we have one more hurdle with the state that we need to finish, and then Daniel can release the proposal for the engineering. And so I hope maybe by this time next month, we will have released that request for proposals, and we'll be searching for an engineer for the project.
Been jumping through hoops for 4 years on that project.
It has been very frustrating. We received that DR money at the exact same time that the state decided to restructure how they administer those grants, and but they have finished their restructuring, and the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency has really stepped in there, especially over the last 6 months to a year, to help us get on in a position to move forward. So it's been very frustrating, and I hope that frustration is equally matched with optimism as we move forward. Are there any other questions about that project? Hopefully we'll be cutting a ribbon down there soon, or breaking ground. We're working towards it, and I apologize, Daniel's not here tonight. He could probably give you a more detailed proposal, but that's my update. Any other questions about Davis? Next on the agenda is restructuring the tax office. Ms. Linda Bass Knight has given us an invaluable service being here with us for so long. And her and I have worked together very well over the last few years, and have actually been discussing the restructuring of the tax office upon her retirement. Ms. Linda is our tax administrator, and the tax administrator is composed of 2 appointed offices, and one is the tax collector and one is the tax assessor. Some counties choose to have different people as the tax collector and the assessor. Here we have always had a combined collector and assessor that we call an administrator. Those are appointed by the board and for terms, and regulated by DOR, Department of Revenue, and there's also qualifying courses and exam to be your certified tax collector and assessor. That is a 2-year process to take those classes, and after that 2-year term, our tax collector and assessor could be reappointed for 4-year terms. My vision to restructure the tax office would be to work with my existing staff, which includes Mr. Shumate as our IT director, because over the last year and a half, one of the biggest items on our plate has been converting to the new Farragut system. And Mr. Shumate has the most technical working knowledge of that Farragut system of anyone on our staff right now. And so he'll play an integral part in the restructuring of the office. We will have an appointed, in my plan, we will have an appointed tax administrator. I would like to have a full-time land records manager. We have had great success over the last couple of months having that contracted. We have a contract employee in there now who's been working on land records management to fix a lot of the errors that we have in our data. I would like to continue to have our deputy tax administrator who's on staff, and also to work with the Register of Deeds office for cross-training so we can have a better sharing of staff between the tax office and the Register of Deeds office. I would like to work on that structure throughout the month of September. And what I'm requesting the board to do tonight to help us get to a place where we feel comfortable as a staff would be to appoint me as your assessor and collector. And I will tell you, this will be a short-term appointment. I have no desire to keep that, but I would like to for you to appoint me as your assessor and collector tonight, so we will have a signatory in Ms. Bass Knight's absence, and then give us the month to work with our existing staff to complete our restructuring plan, to really nail down the roles and responsibilities of our existing staff. But I do plan to restructure the tax office using all existing staff that we currently have. And the new position that I am proposing would be a land records manager, which is already in our salary pay plan. So we have that adopted in our salary pay plan. We can hire a land records manager as an employee instead of a contract person, and also to hire a full-time IT technician. Right now, Mr. Shumate serves as our IT director, and with his increased job responsibilities that he'll be looking towards in the tax office, having that IT technician will give him the staff that he needs to handle day-to-day IT work in regard. Donnie spends a lot of time going to the health department to replace the monitor, and then the DSS to install virus protection, and then back down here to cooperative extension for a potential keyboard issue. It's all help desk type stuff, and if we were able to give him that full-time IT technician / assistant, it will free up his time for him to devote to the restructuring of the tax office. Yes, and that would give us someone who he could put doing those smaller items and devote his attention to some bigger things that we all want to accomplish here. It's a long-term restructuring. We estimate that we will be really focused on this restructuring process over the next 12 to 24 months. And we feel really good about our existing staff being able to meet those needs with a little assistance through the land records and the IT technician. We're also accepted applications for the Ocracoke liaison position, and we're about to interview for that, and that person will also be able to take on help Donnie quite a bit with public information like the Hyde happenings and our website updates, which will also allow him to have the time that he needs to move through the restructuring of the tax office. And so I know that's a lot of information. We've been working on this diligently. And as a recap, what I'm asking for you to do tonight is to A, appoint me as your assessor and collector, and B, to accept the IT technician job description into the county pay plan. And I'm happy to talk about and answer questions about any of that information.
Let's, do we have a motion to appoint Chris as Hyde County Manager, acting tax collector and assessor?
I have a question, who else working with Donna Schneber and Sue?
Okay, Ms. Goldie, I know that you're new. We don't typically talk about people or salaries in open meeting.
Okay, I didn't ask about the salary.
Yeah, that is, but,
I asked you who's working with
yes,
him.
we refer to positions. So let's talk about it as positions. And if we need to talk about it as people, we can go into closed session,
Okay, we'll go into
per
closed session.
Mr. Holster's advice. But currently, what we have on staff currently is we have Miss Linda Bass Knight, who's now retiring, but would like to come back on contract, and that'll be something we'll discuss in October because she needs, I'm trying not to say too much in open session because of personnel protections. We have a deputy tax administrator who will stay in her current position with her current job duties. We have a land records manager who is under contract. We would like to open that up to be a position that we will advertise and hire a land records manager. And so basically we'll still have the same staff in place that we did. We're just going to change the roles and responsibilities a little bit. And we'll work together as a team over the month of September to build that.
And also
I think we need to go to closed session.
So,
Really, the question is the appointment of me and the approval of the IT job description.
just a description.
Yes, as those are the two board actions that are required. I think the county manager typically manages personnel, and the board hires your county manager to manage personnel, and that's my job. And there's certain things I need board action for, and one is that appointment is a board action, and then also to introduce a new job into our salary pay plan is a board action. But under my contract with the board, it is my job to manage personnel.
The IT technician job description will be advertised.
Yes.
If we adopt the description of the job tonight, that'll be advertised for whoever applies for it.
that would have to come from the outside.
And I understand that what Chris is saying, this appointment she wanted for a very short time until they can reorganize the tax office.
We would need a signatory, so I'm
Somebody
asking.
signed the paper, nobody's ever had to sign the paper.
Yeah, I
Yes,
know that.
I'm asking to be the interim, appointed on an interim basis to be there to sign off on what needs to be signed.
But we got a closed session that we can go into at the end, down at the bottom of the meeting, so we can discuss some of that. But
I'm happy to.
yeah, but right now I'd like to, is there a motion to appoint Chris as the acting tax collector and assessor?
I'll make that as a motion.
A motion by Commissioner Paul and a second by Commissioner Simmons. Now is there any discussion on that?
Is everything that you're proposing to do here, does it all fit within the existing approved budget?
Yes, sir. It should all fit within the existing approved budget. That is my goal, and that is something that we will work through in the month of September. I need a little bit of time to work with my existing staff. We're going to start meeting next week to talk about roles and responsibilities and the restructuring process. But the goal is that we will fall within the existing budget or maybe even have budget savings, sir.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And now the IT job description, which was emailed out later, I guess, to us.
I think Donnie finished that up later. The IT job description, that's in their package.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir, it should be in your package.
Okay.
And the IT job description, when we introduce a new job into our salary pay plan, a position that we've not yet had before, it does require board approval to adopt that job into our salary pay plan.
So this is basically a description of what that position, if hired, would consist of.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right.
Do I hear a motion to adopt the IT job description? Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
The last item underneath items of consideration is the dredging at Bigfoot Slough. And we have a significant number of items under this potential, under this item, and I would like to review each one of the actions that I am requesting, and if it is a consensus with the board to move forward, we can just do one motion and approval of all items.
So
So,
things we've already been polled on before too.
yes, sir. So I'm going to run through this really quickly for the public. Hyde County and the Ferry Division, we have been experiencing some extremely challenging issues in regard to the shoaling in Bigfoot Slough. And as you know, Bigfoot Slough is the channel where both our sound class routes from Swan Quarter and Cedar Island go into Silver Lake Harbor. Prior to the evacuation during Hurricane Hyde County had been working with the state and the Ferry Division to try to address the fragile state of that channel. It has been a detriment to our economy. It has been an inconvenience to our tourists and our locals alike. And we have been working to try to find federal funding, state funding. We have been looking everywhere that we could to potentially get the funding that we needed to dredge that channel. When we had to evacuate during Hurricane I, it became very apparent that this was not just an economic issue or an issue of inconvenience, but an issue of public safety, because it completely slowed down our time to evacuate the island, given we had so little capacity out of the sound class routes. We were able to work with the Ferry Division in Carteret County, and we attached and we were developed and worked through a memorandum of agreement where Carteret County paid Hyde County $62,916.50 to be used as our state grant match to dredge the channel using shallow draft navigation funding and using Army Corps engineer dredging. The Carteret County Board of Commissioners voted to support the MOA, and then our board were polled by our chair, and you all also supported the MOA. So in tonight's action, I'm asking you all to ratify that decision for the adoption of that MOA between us and Carteret County. We then moved forward with the application for shallow draft funding, which required a resolution, and we went through the same process, and our board chair polled each of you in support of the action to submit the application and the resolution to support the application. And you all showed support for that, and I ask you tonight to ratify that application and that resolution, which has already been filed. Finally, after working with the Division of Water Resources in regard to our application, they suggested that instead of going through that process, that it would be much quicker and easier if we were able to work with the MOA currently in place between the state and the Army Corps of Engineers, And in order to do that, I needed a letter of support from you all. Our board chair polled you and you supported that action. And I asked you tonight to ratify that decision as well. So I'm asking you tonight to ratify the MOA between Hyde and Carteret, the resolution to apply, the application, and the request and funding submission for the project, which are decisions you've supported by being polled. And I ask you to ratify all of those decisions tonight. And I'd like to do all of those decisions as one vote, and then we'll do the project budget ordinance.
I'd like to make that as a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, pardon me?
Oh, I just wanted to say how grateful we all feel to Carteret County. They're such good neighbors to us, and their cooperation in this has been, it was a missing key to a short-term solution, and we're very grateful that they stepped forward.
Or any further discussion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
And then secondly, I'd like for you to consider the project budget ordinance. And this is a new item on the same topic, one you haven't voted on yet, but is in your package. And if you'll look, what that does is it basically, just like the one we did earlier in regard to the URP grant, it introduces this new money into our budget. You'll see we're looking at $62,916.50 that we've received from Carteret County, matched with state funding of $188,749.50 for a total project budget of $251,666, which will all be utilized to dredge the channel. So I'm asking you to approve that project budget ordinance.
Do I hear a motion to approve? I have a motion by Commissioner Paul to approve the budget ordinance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Can I ask a question about that? What does the timing look like on getting a dredge into Bigfoot Slough?
Commissioner Paul, as far as my conversations with DWR right now, it could take up to 30 days. We are trying to shave off as much of that as possible, but we were just able to complete our paperwork and transfer the funds from Hyde County to the state Friday. And so now we will wait for the shallow draft funding to also be transferred. So it could take up to 30 days, sir. The dredge that we are looking to utilize, we are working closely with Army Corps so that we can potentially have that dredge available immediately following the release of the funding. So I would suspect that we would be in the beginning of October, sir, but I cannot promise that. But what I can promise you is that we'll continue to work with DWR very actively, and as well as the Ferry Division will, to cross any hurdles that we have to expedite the process. It's been my number one priority, one of my number one priorities over the last several weeks, and it'll continue in that nature until the dredge is there.
Thank you. And I know that all of those decision makers who have been involved in this understand the urgency of getting that channel open, not just for the sake of what's left of our tourism season here, but because it's a safety issue. When we had to evacuate for Hurricane I, it was extremely difficult because only half of the number of ferries that would normally be running that route were able to run that route. And I know, because we've had conversations with those people up and down the chain of command about this, but it's important that they hear that over and over, that it's a health and safety issue as well as an issue about the economy of Hyde County.
They have a budget matter. I think we have one budget matter from the health department.
Yes, sir.
It does increase the budget, but it's no local
It's a
funds or
line
not.
to line transfer.
It's a line transfer. Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the budget ordinance for budget matter with the health department?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. All right, it's time for the manager's reports. Tom, do you have a report?
Sure. I think the most important thing for me to report on is to just say, it's been a year since Hurricane Dorian, and so much has happened in this last year, and all of us have been taking some time to reflect back and think about, what happened a year ago and everything that we've been through this year since, and recovering and rebuilding and finding ways to be a more resilient community. And I think that it's been a lot of work. It's been very rewarding in a lot of ways, because we've gotten so much done, and so many of these projects that are underway are going to end up with people's homes and businesses being better off than they were before the storm. And but then along came COVID, and it's just been difficult for everyone. And I just want to say that all of you and the support from Hyde County has been just tremendously important to us. The OIRRT group, the long-term recovery group, has done a tremendous job. And then going all the way back to the immediate weeks and months following the storm, the amount of generosity that we experienced was really overwhelming. And I think bottom line is, looking back over this last year, is just how much goodness and generosity people shared with us, both people on the island, people over here on the mainland, our neighbors in Carteret County, and from afar, and the state and federal support as well has been extremely important to us. And it's just been an amazing experience for that amount of generosity and that amount of goodness to come to our island following this event. And I can say that while I would never, wish this on anyone, that I would never also want to give up what I learned about people during that period, and how good people are. And it's been a very difficult, but also very rewarding in that sense. So I know that everybody on the island feels that. And so thanks go out to everyone out there who was a part of and continues to be a part of our rebuild after Hurricane Dorian. Thanks. That's my report.
Goldie, do you have anything to report?
No.
Ben?
I don't have a whole lot to report this time, but I got something that just really disturbs me every time I get an email from it. This Hyde County Emergency Services emblem that has a devil stabbing a heart, like for our ambulance service and stuff. Personally, I've addressed it before or said something about it, but I would like to see that changed or some other emblem there, but I mean, you know, emergency services and no, I'd like to see something a little different.
I think it looks pretty, but it's a throwback, it's this, Black Beaters.
Well, that's fine, but if you're having those kind of issues, it's kind of inappropriate, and that's my opinion, and everybody has one, so. I've mentioned it before, and I just want to bring it up again, because every time I get the email and that pops up there, it kind of makes me, shudder, but, and I had somebody tell me that they understood why somebody like me might would feel that way. I don't know, like me, what that means, but I do feel, anyway, I just think it would be, I think we could come up with something a little better, but, and maybe that's not what I want. Anyway, that's my opinion. That's my report.
That's your
Sorry.
report. Okay. Well,
So noted, sir.
we had Speaker Tim Moore and his staff was in Ocracoke, and we with discussion on the ferry to let them know the importance of that ferry channel. Also, and that was Dixon and Chris and Bill Rich and Tom and myself, and I think it was a good meeting, but you know, we didn't get any money from it, but I think we've let them know in Raleigh that how important that channel, Bigfoot Slough, is. And tentative Albemarle Commission meeting by Zoom, and there was a lot of discussion going on the Albemarle Commission now with the lack of internet service in northeastern North Carolina, and they're working very hard on some projects that we might be. I know we've got a project here going on too, but I think they're working on it too, so we might can benefit from that. Also, I was on the Coastal Federation had a Lake Mattamuskeet recovery information program online the other night, and that was very informative for the things that are going on. They removed a lot of carp from that lake, and they're doing a study on the nutrients, and they've got a lot of federal grants too to continue to move in the carp and stuff, and so I think that project is moving along pretty good. And one day last week, I was on a wind energy webinar for northeastern North Carolina, and the benefits that could be for North Carolina, but most of the benefits seem to be in the very far northeast corner that join Virginia, because that would be the staging area of the wind energy project they're proposing off of Kitty Hawk. So, but anyway, I enjoyed listening to it, and also listened to the Waterways Commission meeting on Facebook last week, and that was a very informative meeting too. When they had the Corps, the Coast Guard, and the Ferry Division, and there was a lot of good information that I thought was received from that, Tom. I thought that was a good meeting.
It was a very good meeting.
Yep.
Yep.
That's about what I have. Chris?
I will keep mine very short because most of what you have in your agenda packet is mostly what I've been working on. I think that's pretty evident. The majority, a lot of my time has gone to our dredging efforts, and this was just one project we discussed tonight, was the dredging of Bigfoot, but we also have long-term plans in Bigfoot and also projects in Hatteras that we're working towards. I also marked the 1-year anniversary, and I could not have been more pleased to have gone to one of our local restaurants this weekend in Ocracoke that has just reopened this weekend from Dorian at a year anniversary. And it was a business owner that had been devastated and utilized our Hyde County Revolving Loan Fund and also our relationship with the Small Business Technology Center for Development out of Elizabeth City State. And the owners were very thankful in regard to that assistance from the SBTDC and also from our Revolving Loan Fund. And it was wonderful to see, even though it was heartbreaking, it takes so long. And I think we have a long way to recovery. We continue to work with the interfaith group to get folks back on their feet and back in their houses, and with businesses to help them recover. And we've made it a long way, and we still have a long road. And I'm thankful for all of our partners that we have in helping us recover. And that's what I have.
Okay. Do you have any more public comments? Have you received any? Okay, well, I guess, do we need a closed session? Would you like to have a closed session?
No.
I mean, huh?
I would refer to the, county attorney.
I mean, if you would like to have one, we can go in closed session if you got anything you
No,
want.
that'll be all right for tonight.
Okay,
Or I can also, take some time with Ms. Toppin and
that would
talk
be good.
about
If you,
questions.
if you have
that
any
she
questions,
has.
just, I mean.
We can
with
work
us,
together.
Whoever you want to sit down, but, you know, we can't discuss personnel in open meeting.
I know
We
that.
can, so anyway, all right. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? You might have?
There's some great department reports in your package. I encourage
Yes.
you to read.
Can we take the book home?
Yeah, of course you can take the book
I just bought
home.
about 6 back.
I was gonna say, just bring the binders back every now and then.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons, or hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toppin. All those in favor, let me know, saying aye. Aye. All opposed, we are adjourned. And Tom got half far to go to get home.
That's right.